Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us on my webinar series, Tuesday Traces. As you know, the purpose of this webinar is to show how the V1 pressure mat powered by BodiTrak is used. Welcome to all the folks that have registered and have joined us via the Zoom webinar, and welcome to all the folks tuning into the V1 Sports Facebook live channel. As you know, the recording, this webinar is recorded. We will save it to our V1 Sports YouTube channel. We will email it to everyone that is registered by end of the week. Thank you for rewatching if you didn't get to watch the whole thing. We love answering questions throughout the evening, so please put your questions in the chat window in the Zoom or on Facebook. Okay, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. You guys, this is my 9th Tuesday Traces. So by now, everybody knows that V1 Sports is absolutely the leader in video analysis solutions. Everybody should know that I am Mandy, and I love my job. In my golf career, I've made some really special relationships, and my guest tonight is absolutely one that makes my job really fun. He's not only a client and a partner, but he has become a friend, an awesome resource, and he has excellent taste in music. Everyone, please meet and welcome the CEO, co-founder of Golfinity, and in my opinion, one of the most interesting golf instructors in the world. Hi, Aaron.
You must not know very many golf instructors.
I know a lot of golf instructors. I know a ton of golf instructors. And on every Tuesday Trace, I dig really hard to try to find something cool that the whole world might not know about you. I found like a lot of things that are really about your
well,
and
I should be careful on who I'm letting you talk to.
maybe. You know, I have your sister's cell phone.
And you probably know how to get a hold of Tyler, and that's a problem too.
I do.
Hey, before we get started, Mandy, I just want to say hello to everyone attending. I wish I could see everyone's faces. I'm very honored to be here. I mean, Tuesday Traces, this is like the equivalent of a comedian being on riding in cars with drinking coffee. So what do you call your alumni from Tuesday Traces? Am I going to be now a tracer?
Maybe. Yeah, I like that.
Is that what I'll be a tracer after tonight.
I like it. And Aaron, I just want you to know I'm representing.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
See, that's like a true sales rep, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm not messing around. Okay, let's talk about a little bit about who Aaron is. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, Aaron. I like to start off by asking questions so that our audience can get to know you. You wear a ton of hats. But I know your first love is golf and that you're a really good player. I say this a lot. Your pro should play golf. You guys, your pros should play golf. They should be on the golf course playing golf. Aaron, please brag a little bit about your game, your golf game, how much you still play, and how that influences your golf instruction, please.
Well, I would say I can't really brag about my golf game. I don't play as much golf as I would like. But, you know, you have to remember everyone who teaches the game first fell in love with playing it. So I try not to ever get too far away from what really drew me to golf in the first place. And, you know, as you get older and you have kids, to do things that kind of fire up your competitive juices. I can't join a basketball league. My back wouldn't let me. So golf has been an outlet for me to continue to just, you know, feel like an athlete and someone who's competitive and wants to go out and try to do their best. So, you know, the other thing, Mandy, is I have all of our coaches at our school play in tournaments. And the reason why is I think that if you're just an instructor and you start to just get kind of sucked into swing theory and ideas that, you know, are true or make sense or sound good, then what happens is if you're not playing golf, you're not applying those, then your disconnect between what you're thinking about and what you're trying to understand and what you're trying to communicate to going out and applying that. And your students, I mean, if they come in for a lesson, they have to go out and they have to play better. They have to apply that. So I really feel like as a player, I'm never getting too far away from the experience that my students are going through when they're competing or they're playing on the course. And I think that's really, really important.
I do too. I think that's important. And I love that you're encouraging your instructors to do that too. Okay, so I know that you have a passion for offering golf to communities around the world in a really special way. I also know that you've taught golf lessons in more countries in the world than most people have ever even traveled to. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience in other parts of the world and how that has influenced your passion for supporting kids and the community?
Sure. So I am the son of parents who traveled and growing up had a lot of world experiences. My mom lived in Ecuador. And so growing up, I was always told that there's more to the world than what you know in your little existence. And so I always wanted to travel, but I didn't have any money. So when I graduated from school, in fact, Tyler, who's on this webinar, when I got the job to go teach in Bhutan, I think he was like the first person that I told.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
I found a job teaching in a country that I had actually never heard of, the Kingdom of Bhutan, a tiny little place. And, that was my ticket to travel. I mean, I didn't really want the real world to start.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll go travel for 6 months and then I can start my life. And so what I ended up doing was 6 months, and then I found another opportunity and met another person. And next thing you know, I'm there for 3 years and my mother's concerned that I'll never make it back. So, it was a really interesting experience for me in that I was very young. I was out on my own, and everything I did was around the game of golf. And I'll tell you, and I maybe didn't realize it at the time, but very, very much golf was something that was connecting me to these cultures that I was kind of an outcast. In many places that I was at, Bhutan or Nepal or Thailand, I didn't even speak the same language. And so I learned very quickly that golf was this great connector of across cultures, and in class of people, and also skill. And that if we could share the common interest in the game and golf, then maybe we could connect in other ways as well. And that was a great barrier reducer for me. And I've tried to take that same experience, and when I've come back to the States, hey, the same thing is there's a lot of things that separate people, whether it's where they live in the States, one coast to the other, or whatever, but golf can be a great connector. So I've always kept that with me.
Nice. So, I like to play practical jokes. If anybody's had a V1 system installed by me, they've found hidden spiders and all sorts of funny things. I like to play practical jokes. So I have to ask you about the king of Bhutan tricked you, played a joke on you. Is that true?
Yes.
The king of Bhutan, you taught the prince, and then the king played a joke.
I gotta find out who you're getting your information from.
I have to know this.
So I mentioned Bhutan. It's this very small place. And here's an interesting fact. The entire country, there's not one stoplight. So It's a very isolated place. And so for an American, a Westerner to be coming in, I think I was one of maybe 10 or 15 Western Caucasian people in the whole country. So for someone to be coming in and be coaching, the king would always take a strong interest in, whoever this person was. And the fact that I was so young at the time, they're going, wait a minute, he's a coach and teaching in our country. He's how old? So what he did was the prince was home. One of the princes was home from college, and he sent him to go play golf with me and take a lesson. So one day someone storms into my apartment and wakes me up and says, you're playing golf with the prince today. And I said, oh my gosh, what? I got to take a shower. I got to get ready. He said, no, there's no time. You must come now. So the whole drive over there, I'm getting all these, okay, you must stand like this and you must do this. And there's all these formalities, and I'm just completely stressed out. And I said, well, how old is he? And he said, he's 21. I said, okay, all bets are off. We'll be fine. So I wasn't much older at the time. So we went there and I met the prince and his whole entourage, and we go to do a golf lesson and he literally can't hit the ball. And I am trembling in my shoes. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be the worst day of my life. And so we had a lesson. We played 9 holes. Luckily, I played pretty well, so I didn't make myself look like a fool. And so I was telling someone about the story, and they said, oh, you got duped by the king. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, the prince knows how to play golf. I said, what are you talking about? They said, oh yeah, he does this all the time. And they gave me an example of another coach that he played a trick. He sent his son to go learn from you to see if you knew what you were talking about.
Oh my
And
God, I love that.
my stomach just sank. My heart just sank. So
I love it.
I ended up playing more golf with the prince, so it must have gone okay. But it didn't feel good to get duped by the king, that's for sure.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. One more quick question about Bhutan. We can't ignore it. You befriended, and I know he is a very close member of your family now. Correct me if I mess up the pronunciation. Shiva Ram Shretha. He was a caddy when you met him. He is now on the Asian tour, and he won Athlete of the Year in 2014 for his nation. What a mentor you must be. Tell me about this. This is awesome. Can you hear me? Aaron?
Well, your audio cut off for just a second, but I think I got the gist of it. So yeah, that was another part of my travels and sort of using the game of golf is I got to meet so many interesting people. And I spent some time in Nepal helping them establish junior golf programs. The Nepal Golf Association was trying to expand the game. And so while I was there and I was training the pros and conducting some lessons for some local golfers, I met this caddy and Shivaram, and he was physically so talented. I mean, the sound he made when he hit the ball was not a sound that I'm familiar with. And so while I was there, they asked me, what do you think of this guy? Because we're taking him to all these tournaments and around Asia, and he's playing very poorly. So, we can't keep supporting him. And I told them, you've got to support this kid. I mean, you might not have another talent like this in 50 years. So they said, well, how are we going to do that? I said, you've got to get a coach. And they said, well, who's going to coach him? I said, I'm not sure. They said, why don't you do it? I was living in Thailand at the time. So they convinced me to bring Shivaram to Thailand, which, didn't start off very well. He didn't speak Thai, I didn't speak Thai, and he didn't speak English. So what started off as kind of a rocky relationship, Shiva and I worked so hard every day, and little by little, he started to really improve, and we formed a wonderful relationship. He's like a member of my family, and he's had success in golf and continues to try to play professionally. So very, very honored that I've been able to coach some talented players.
That's awesome. And, these questions are leading up to showing everyone all the accomplishments you've made. It's pretty awesome, your golf career. I want to ask you one more question, and then I can't wait to talk about where you're standing. But since COVID, golf is growing. Sure. There's more and more kids are playing golf. This is a new thing for a lot of people, is all the juniors coming into their academies. However, this is not new for you. Please tell everyone about how you got golf into the lives of 2,000 kids per year. No joke. It's a big deal.
So my parents didn't play golf. And in fact, when I told them I wanted to play golf, they were very surprised. But I did live about a mile away from a golf course that had, I think, $50 a month, and you could join and play. And as I started to have these experiences around the world, and golf became my livelihood and just meant so much to my life, I started to think, had I have not lived so close to a course and just geographically been in that space, then it's very likely that I would have never found golf, and my life would not be as fulfilled as it is. And so the idea that I started to have is, how many people live 1 mile away from a golf course that has $50 membership so you can play as much as you want? And the reality is not very many. So I started to think, well, how can I bring golf to the community, put clubs in people's hands so that they can start to benefit from the game like I am and all of my great coaches are. And, what started off in schools then became the indoor school, which is now what we're doing in Golfinity, but it's all around the same thing. It's that golf can be such an amazing tool in someone's life for many different reasons. It can serve many different purposes. And really the stickiness to golf is enjoying it, which means having success with it. And so by just creating an environment where we're learning, developing, all in the spirit of getting better And if you play better, you'll enjoy it more. If you enjoy it more, it can impact your life in a more positive way. So that's what we started doing with the schools, and that's what we're doing now with our school that you're seeing behind me now, and what we'll do in our next space.
Yeah, that brings me to what we're looking at. So all the people that are looking at this, Aaron, you're seeing 50% of a preview club. This probably looks like a golf academy to most people. The difference here is that this facility has almost every piece of golf technology that you can buy. He has one of every simulator. He's got everything. And Aaron's project is to test every single piece of equipment for use in the larger Golfinity, which is going to open in 2021. Aaron, can you talk to us a little bit about the preview club? I mean, it is definitely a lab. It is definitely a test facility, but it is absolutely a working golf academy as well.
Yes, we call this the Petri dish. You know, we test a bunch of different things and see what works and get feedback from our customers. But, you know, technology around the game, I mean, most people who are on this call or on this webinar didn't grow up with technology. You know, all of the coaches here certainly did not. And so it's this really exciting space. I mean, I never really dreamt that I never even wanted to teach in this type of environment. But as I started to see how it could affect my coaching and how students were getting better faster, you know, I was really drawn to the different experiences that you could have around technology. And so, you know, it's all changing very fast. And we try to go through a process of determining what is the most beneficial to our students and easiest for our coaches to benefit from and then implement it. So I've tried it all. There's probably not very many things out there that I haven't put in front of my students. So, but I'll tell you what, Mandy, this piece of technology that we're talking about tonight, and the reason why I have the privilege of having this platform is your technology V1. I'll tell you what, as we go down the street into our 22 bay facility, I can tell you one thing that I promise I'm going to be carrying right with me along my side, and that's my V1 pressure mat.
That's awesome. Thank you. And we are so happy to be a partner of yours in the new Golfinity. Before I turn you loose to teach the folks about pressure, Golfinity, it's a huge facility. It's absolutely going to revolutionize the way that golfers learn and interact with their golf instructor. My team, please post the press release that was released yesterday announcing Golfinity opening. They're going to share that in our chat window. We'll also share the new Golfinity website. Aaron, what is Golfinity?
Golfinity is an indoor golf performance club. It's a member-based facility. We have 22 state-of-the-art bays, and it's really a place for golfers of all levels. So people who have never put a club in their hands for the first time to golfers aspiring to be professional players. It's a place for you to develop, for you to learn, and most importantly, a place for you to find community. So it's a really exciting concept that we've done on a smaller scale in the facility that you see here. And we're really excited to launch it. In fact, like you mentioned, the press release just went out this week and the website launched. So we're trying to get that building open 2 more months, and then you can come see it for yourself.
Get it open so I
know, I'm trying.
Come down there and
you see these gray hairs, Mandy? You see these gray hairs?
I know. It's okay. You're a CEO of a big fancy golf academy. You're supposed to have gray hairs.
Oh, gosh.
I will tell you, I got a personal tour. I got a special gorgeous hard hat with the Golfinity logo. I have been there. It is spectacular. If you're in Austin, I would absolutely keep an eye out and go visit Aaron over there as soon as it opens. Okay, the good stuff. The reason we all tuned in. Reminder, if you have questions, please put them in our chat window. Okay, Aaron, you shared with me sort of a very interesting sort of method of teaching, different than what I hear from a lot of our instructors. You're sharing 3 barriers for learning. The student must be ready to receive information. The instructor must have the information to give, and the 2 parties must want to work together. Please elaborate and tell us the 3 key concepts in your teaching and how specifically the pressure mat helps students' development.
Sure. So this is something that we talk a lot about in our school amongst coaches, and that is what I call a barrier to learning. So let's say I'm someone who has quality information, and I can communicate that to a student, and I have Mandy Von See, who's an eager learner. She's ready to take in information. She wants to get better. So what we have to understand is there's still some things that can get in the way of that teaching. And it's one thing to teach, but there has to be learning taking place. And so when we understand what those barriers are, now we can develop tools and plans and incorporate technology to get over those barriers. So one of the barriers is what I feel I'm doing or what I think I'm doing is different than what I'm actually doing. You hear this in golf instruction all the time: feel versus real.
Yep.
Right? And what happens is we get calibrated to a certain thing. So it's like when I was setting up and putting, I try to set up my putter square every single time. I mean, why wouldn't I? And then I had someone take a look at my club face, and I said, "How's my setup look?" And they said, "Well, why is your face closed?" I said, "My face isn't closed." Then they grabbed the club. I came back and looked, and sure enough, it's closed. So I had calibrated myself. I had normalized that. And so what I felt I was doing was different than what I was actually doing. And you see that all the time, even with the swing. I mean, if I'm someone who swings way over to the left, I mean, nobody's trying to swing left, right? I mean, they're looking at a target. In their mind, they're swinging to the target, but what they're doing, what they're feeling that they're doing is different. But the key barrier, and the one that if we can get past, if the student can shed light on this, really the improvement can just exponentially go. And that is awareness. And awareness is just my ability to observe what I'm doing while I'm doing it. Okay. And really, golfers just, for the most part, really lack awareness. And so they're not able to observe what it is they're doing during the swing. So let's talk a little bit about the V1 pressure mat, because this is such a great way for people to understand awareness. And what I like to do in the mat is I'll set students up and just put it on the live mode, and I'll have them say, okay, set up balanced. And they set up balanced what they think they're doing, and they go over here and they've got the weight real forward, and a bunch of too much pressure over there on their left. And so by seeing that in real time, they can start to change their awareness and go, oh, actually, this is what balance actually looks like. And it's an amazing thing. If I can get someone to observe what they're doing, it doesn't even matter if they do it right or wrong, just that they could tell that they did it, they get so much better, so much faster. So
well, then you can have a meaningful conversation, right? If everybody's aware of what's going on, then you get to talk about it. If nobody knows what's going on, then you can't even get there.
And balance is such a critical thing to the swing, right? I mean, we're making this circular motion around a center. And if I can't stay balanced, how can I get this little club face to return back to the ball so it hits it in the middle of the face? And the reality is I don't see it. The coach doesn't see it for the most part. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can see on video, but more importantly, the student is not paying attention to it. So if they're not paying attention to it, they can't say, yes, I am, or no, I'm not. So when they see that, okay, my pressure is getting way into my toes as I swing forward. Now, essentially, I've taken the flashlight and I've turned on the flashlight and I've shined it onto something that they weren't aware. And I'll tell you an amazing thing that I'll see happen around this is, there's this pandemic in junior golf. I mean, I swear, if the kids don't tie their shoelaces tight enough, their shoes are going to come off when they swing. And so every competitive junior golfer that comes into my school is way up here as they get to impact.
Yep.
Well, we start to work through that. If we have time, it would be good to talk about how we change people from that to something else. But when I start to work with them on developing awareness for that, I'll ask them, did you know that you're way up on your toes? Or I'll show them the video or whatever. They say, oh, no, I had no idea. And then, so they're not feeling it. And then they'll make some swings after we work on it, and they'll say, oh, I jumped a little bit, I felt it. And I say, boom, now I know they're going to get better. And I tell them, it's not important for you to nail this in one lesson. It's just important for you to develop awareness around it, to
Right.
observe. Because here's the thing, Mandy, you know, you're a interested golfer trying to get better. If you hit a good shot, right, that means you did something correct. You did something correct with the club. So if you don't know what you did and you're not able to observe, yes, that's what I wanted to do, how can you repeat it?
Right.
So what happens is golfers are going out on the course and they're just hitting a shot. And if they hit a good one, they're just as shocked as anybody. Oh, how'd that happen? When really we should be very intent. I should say, okay, this is what I want to do with my swing. All right. And I'll give you my concept. It's probably the easiest concept, the simplest concept you've ever heard. But in my concept, I take the club from one side over the back shoulder and then swing it uninterrupted towards my target to the other side. Now, if I have awareness, I should be able to say, yes, I did what I intended to do, right? And if I did, and I have that awareness, well, on my very next swing, I should be able to repeat it. Now I'm building consistency. But if I make a swing and I don't know if I did what I wanted to do, I wasn't able to observe it, then I have no chance of being consistent. And that is the biggest barrier that I see to learning. I don't think swinging a golf club, first off, there's nothing about Aaron Bergman that has any ounce of talent. So if I can make a half decent swing, then anybody should be able to do it. So it's not the physical movement that's so difficult. It's just where people place their intent and where the awareness is around that intent.
Hey, Aaron, so I love that, using awareness of how you're interacting with the ground. Obviously, the mat does that. How often are you putting new students on the mat? Do you put every new student on the mat?
I don't have a strict, every new student is going to go on. The way that we try to do it is we just try to make sure that, you know, our students are coming once a week or once every other week, that we're always at least cycling them through, because I really want them to, first of all, understand just how important balance is. And the pressure mat is so great because it makes them see, they can, oh, okay, wow, that's what I'm doing. And now if I can get them to develop a little awareness, they can go practice or do the drill and work on their balance. They don't just have to get better on the mat. Then we come back to the mat a week later or 2 weeks later, and then we check it. And that's what I love, because that's now really owning your improvement.
Awesome. And just, I mean, I know how your facility is set up, but you have a monitor for the students to see that pressure right in front of them, right?
Oh yeah. So you I guess you can't see this, but I am, as I set up, I'm looking down, so I don't have to change my posture to look up at the screen in front of me, right? I can stay in a golf posture and I can look right down at the screen and I can see where my pressure is. You know, and I'll just tell you a little bit about me, is like, for me, I feel very comfortable getting a little bit on the right. So again, feel versus real, I start to normalize that. And then that to me feels balanced. So then I come on here and I check, put the club out in front, and then I get it to where it needs to be. And I go, Aaron, pay attention to yourself. That's balance. And
Like,
you know, here's the thing, that the best players in the world have to recalibrate. So us average golfers, we got no chance.
You're not an average golfer. Super important. We love putting monitors on the floor. I think just seeing an instructor of your level in posture and being able to see that data without standing up. I can't tell how many monitors I hang on the side of walls in academies that make people have to stand up and look. So we love that. We can't actually see that monitor. It's just out the frame, but it is there. So thank you for sharing that. Okay.
Yeah. For anybody who is using a V1 system, I would highly recommend in getting the monitor down by the ground. It's really been a game changer for us. And we're always getting feedback from students, and we've gotten a ton of great feedback on that.
Yeah, it's so cool to not have to get up out of your posture. Okay. The second concept is responsiveness.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about, I think I mentioned before, junior golfers and really just golfers in general, getting way up on the toes this way. And then the other thing you see is so many people hanging back and having such a difficult time getting over to their front side, right? So in the golf swing, we have to be responsive, all right? And what is responsive? Responsive is, I think of it as, it's my body's movement to accommodate the motion of the club, okay? So I'll give you a couple of examples of being responsive, and then I've got a little toy here to demonstrate. But if I was going to take a ball and I was going to toss it forward, I'm not just going to toss like this, right? I'm going to toss and I'm going to respond to that swinging movement of my arm so that I move in this way, okay? And in the golf swing, when I become truly responsive, and so, in fact, let me grab my little toy. If I become truly responsive, then I am working in partnership with the swing, and that there's nothing I'm doing that's extra, right? So I'm not focused on how I'm moving, right? I'm just going back and forward, and I'm moving in response to the tennis ball and the club working together. Now, if I wasn't responsive and I was sitting here going like this, well, that tennis ball is not going to swing like that, okay?
Right, okay.
And so I show that to students sometimes. The other thing is, if I take this thing and I just swing it and let it wrap around myself, every single person that I have do this, always, because they're not thinking about hitting anything, they're not worried about a little ball, they're just, being, to the best ability, just an athlete swinging something. And every single time I do this, everybody responds very nicely and goes right over to the front side and has no problem. But here's the thing. All of the responsiveness goes out the door because of this little golf ball that's in front of everyone. And so now it's no longer about an intent to do something with the club, to take it from this side and then swing it in one motion to the other side. It's now, I have to do something with that ball. So what happens when that intent changes? Well, if my intent is to take the club and to swing it forward over here, very naturally, I'm going to finish over on this side, okay? I'm fulfilling or accommodating that intent with my movement. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I'm moving in response to that intent. But if my intent shifts to, I've got to do something to this ball. Well, if my goal in my mind is to just get to the ball, I don't have to get over to my front side. And so one of the questions that we always ask students is, what are you trying to do? And what do you think they always say? I'm trying to hit a good shot, or I'm trying to hit the ball. And so then, of course, they're not going to get over to that front side. And the first thing that we do is we have to flip the intent. We have to get them in a responsive state. And then, boom, we turn on the pressure mat and show them how they're moving, and how when they have the intent of just swinging something, look what your pressure was when you just took a practice swing and swung the golf club. Right. See how at impact, you had 90% of your pressure on your front side. And then when you went, golf ball was there, you had 60% on your back foot. Well, what changed, right? You couldn't keep the intention of producing a motion from this side over to that side. In your mind, it was, oh, now I've got to go down and I've got to get the ball. And, people say golf is mental. It's 100% mental in that sense. If I can be responsive, let's talk a little bit about the toes for a second. If I'm responsive, the golf swing is circular. I'm just going to put the club out in front of me a little bit. So if I'm just allowing myself to move with that swing, then my pressure should never get into the toes, because that movement would never correlate with what I'm trying to do with the club, which is to swing it around me one side to the other. So if I take the club back and then I get into my toes, I'm no longer being responsive. I'm now inserting myself into the motion, right? Right. And my instructor, his name was Manuel de la Torre, and he told me something one time that I never forgot, which is, the body can't do anything wrong if you don't do anything with it. So if I just allow my body to just move with the swing, it's dumb. It's not gonna get up on the toes unless I do that myself. If I insert that effort into the swing.
Right.
So I'll tell you something. One more thing is I have students make swings very slowly, and they never, ever, ever, I have them hit full swings, kind of 30, 40%. And they never get up on their toes. It's when they say, oh, I have to hit it further. And the brain goes, oh, further? That's effort. And effort and speed are not married to one another, right? If you go to Top Golf and watch the guy at the end of at the last base sweating his tail off, you know, he's not the one who's smoothing it over the fence, right? So it's that effort that the brain goes, oh, I need to hit it further. I'm going to insert myself into the golf swing. And that doesn't translate into more speed. It's actually the contrary.
That's awesome. And I love that explanation. And I want to say, because I've said it on all the webinars, Terry Hash says our toes are our brakes and our heels are our accelerators.
Ooh, I love that.
I know, right? Terry Hashimoto has said that. And it stuck with me. I use it in like other sports. I always think of that when I'm standing on my V1 pressure mat powered by BodiTrak. And I think that's a very direct correlation to be responsive. Like, just be responsive to the club, get out of your toes and quit thinking that your toes can help you get there. I also have to say, Aaron, Taylor Bowie, is that how you say it?
Taylor Bowie?
Yeah, Taylor Bowie. He is putting a comment in our chat window that says he loves your be responsive tip. He said that you introduced that concept to him during your first lesson, and it is extremely helpful. So we have a testimonial already that you're be responsive.
Yeah, you're the man, Taylor. Taylor is a very talented golfer. Awesome. So getting him to be responsive wasn't that easy. Here's something that you can, for the viewers at home, to test out responsiveness. And I'll tell you what, this is the cheapest training aid. So the tennis ball and the string, try that. It's really good for putting too. But one thing that I'll have my students do is I'll just have them set up like this and go back and then slap and then slap and then slap and then slap. And you see that as I do that and I respond, very circular. And I'll never get into my toes this way when I'm responding in that way. So here's a really good just little responsive drill. You don't even need a club. You can do right at your house.
I love that little linear trace we're seeing on the mat when you do that.
All about that linear trace.
I know. It's so great to have an instructor give us a visual. And, you know, everybody, if you don't know, the box in the bottom right is the pressure. Those are Aaron's feet. And he's standing on the mat. And the drills he's showing you, this is real time and live. And it's so cool to see that. That data and that interaction. This is awesome. I love that we have an instructor using the graphs. Okay. The third concept, probably the most important one, is intent.
Yes. So I talked a little bit about it before. I have a job to do when I put this club in my hands, right? I have to do something correct with it. And it's amazing. I mean, I have asked this question maybe easily over 1,000 times. You know, to golfers who have been playing for 30 years, they say, okay, you've got this club in your hands. What are you going to do with it? What is your job? And no one has ever given me the correct answer, or even really a concise answer, as if they had never thought about it. So if I don't know what I'm supposed to do, how can I develop a correct movement with the club that gives me the ball flight I need? I mean, the ball is only responding to the movement of the club. So I have to do something with this. So I have to direct, I have to have a concept. I have to have a concept in my mind that says, this is, when I have this in my hands, this is what I do. And without that, you know, and I mentioned before, everyone goes to the ball. If your concept is I have to do something to the ball, well, your swing is going to be all over the place because it's no longer really a swing. Right? It's one of the reasons why we want to use a swinging motion, is because it's so repetitive. it just does the same thing. As long as it's swinging around the center, I don't have to worry about, is it going to be square? It will be square. And so, let's talk about how that goes now into pressure. Is I go to the ball and I say, okay, in my mind, whether it's subconscious or I'm present with that intent, is, okay, now I've got to go and I've got to do something with that ball, because it's all about the anticipation of that contact. And you can just imagine the traces that you get. You can imagine the way that people are applying pressure into the ground. I mean, it's all over the place, because when you hit something, it's like an explosion. And an explosion has no direction. Every direction is its direction. And when you develop your intent around, okay, I'm going to take the club and I'm going to go from this side and then over to that side. Now I have some direction with what I'm doing. I'm giving that swing. I'm trying to transfer that energy towards my target. And then what happens? My balance goes right along with it. I stay in balance, allowing me to stay centered. I get rid of my front side, and I get these beautiful little traces on my V1 pressure mat, powered by BodiTrak.
I love it. I love it. I love seeing all the action behind you too. All those guys
Oh my
down
God.
there shaking.
I just told them, I said, hey, we like to get kind of rowdy in here. I said, hey guys, I'm going to be on a webinar here, so just tone it down, okay?
I know. Well,
I'm surprised they're not in the background, making silly faces.
I think I changed the playlist while I was there once.
Okay, normally we have the music bumping.
I know. That's what I said.
They're probably mad at me for not letting them have it.
One of my most proudest moments as a golf sales rep was getting in your car and you were playing my music playlist. It's like it was just so cool. And you're from Austin, so I have to say that. We have a great question from Kevin McLaughlin. Kevin, thank you for joining us on our webinars. He's always here. His question, Aaron, is how do you maintain a responsive swing and maintain separation to snap the club through impact, similar to snapping a towel? Did you hear my question?
Yeah, this is from Kevin.
Yeah, this is from Kevin. Not my question, but did you hear me ask the question? Yeah.
So let's talk. This is really important, because there's this idea that, I hold, and then I release. And the problem with that is, when do I release it? When do I hold it? That's not something I can manage. And speed is created from angles. That when I apply pressure correctly, I keep coil in my swing. And this is a drill I do with my students. I have them go wide, narrow, wide, narrow, wide, narrow. And the key thing to understand is that hand action and wrist action are two completely different things. And what we observe in the golf swing is, let's take someone with a lot of coil, Sergio Garcia. He's coming in here like this. And then all of a sudden, boom, you see him like that. And you go, oh my gosh, how does he make that happen? What that is wrist action. And the difference is wrist action, I'm going to take my arm and I'm just going to go like this. And I'm just, my hand is moving, but it's completely involuntary. I'm not doing that. The motion of my arm is, so my wrist is supple and it's just moving. Now, if I do this, that's hand action, okay? That's detrimental to the swing. And when I go in there and I try to manage that using my hands, you'll never be able to time it 2 times in a row the exact same. So if you're somebody who is hitting blocks out to the right and also hooks to the left, you've got a lot of hand action that you're dealing with. So how do I keep that speed? I work on being very supple. So if I'm gonna hold this, I'll tell you what I'll do. I hope people can see this. I'm gonna hold it with 2 fingers. So I've only got the club in 2 fingers. And I'll hit shots like this, and that club stays very coiled. I am not managing this and this through the shot. It's just my motion and my response to, I need to get this club from this side over to this side. And that club stays coiled around me. And then boom, that speed is generated. I hope that's helpful, Kevin. That's a really good question.
Really great question. And also really cool because I don't know if you were watching it, but just while you were doing that drill, where I was watching the trace, and it's just linear back and forth. It seems so fluid and smooth, and very cool to see that live. I love it. All right. So I told you and I challenged you with drills. Everybody loves tuning into Tuesday Traces and getting drills.
Yes.
So we have a couple drills. I'd love for you to tell us about them. We have 10 minutes left. So yeah, let's see the drills, because everybody's gonna want them.
So let's talk about a drill. Let's talk about a drill for all you golfers out there, or your coaches who have students who have this issue. And for hanging back and just not being able to, from the top, they're all club head to the ball, and they're just, God, I can't get them to get over to that front side. So what I do with students, one thing you'll notice with golfers who get hung back is they tend to get the ball to play very far back in their stance, which makes the problem even worse. But what I'll do with the student is I'll have them set up with the club in the middle of their stance, and I'll put the ball really far forward. In fact, to bring this full circle to Shivaram, this is one of the drills that I used to use with him. In fact, I think he's probably the first person I experimented with this on. But the idea is, if that ball is, this is probably 4 inches, 5 inches. If that ball is up here, in order for me to accommodate the intent of I've got to go and get this motion more forward, it's very difficult. Hanging back on my foot is not going to get me to that ball. So I'll start players off, and if someone really hangs back, maybe you just do it a few inches, and I'll have them make some swings, and then they've got to go forward and hit a crisp shot. And then the more comfortable they get with that, the further up I'll have the ball. And I mean, I've tried to test this with myself. Like, here's that ball. That ball's way up off my front foot. So to go get that, man, I really had to go out forward. So it's an incredible drill. I've seen this transform people like this to golfers like that just by incorporating that drill.
What do you call it?
Ooh, we'll just call it the ball forward drill.
Ball forward?
The key with this drill is when you put the ball forward, you don't change your weight. You start from club and your balance right here in the middle, and then you have to work forward to be able to bottom out at that same spot.
I like it.
I'll tell you what, I would love for someone on this webinar to go practice that drill. If you're hitting a little bit behind the ball, if you're getting a little scoopy on your pitches or on your full shots, I would love for you to do that drill and give me some feedback, or give Mandy some feedback.
I would love to know that as well. Okay. Second drill. You've got another couple drills. Heel up drill?
Sure. So my jumpers, there was, I don't know when it was, but at one point, the coaches were all sitting around, we're talking about trends we're seeing, and how is your instruction working? Give us some success stories. And we started to realize every kid coming through our school was jumping through the roof. And to be honest, I never was a big jumper, and I had never taught a lot of competitive juniors who jump so much. I'm going, oh my gosh, like, how are we going to deal with this? So we started to work through it, and come up with some drills to help students. But if you're someone who gets way up on your toes, and we'll even see, at impact, we'll see people like this, right? I mean, that heel is like that front heel is like this. I mean, they are toast. So what we'll do is we'll have them make a backswing, and then I'll let the heel come up. Okay. And funny enough, I was never taught let your heel respond in the backswing by coming up like this. But go on YouTube, and all the instructors on this Zoom know that all the great swings, everybody's letting that heel respond and come up like that. So we'll have someone go heel up, okay?
Okay.
And then as they go forward, then they have to plant and swing. And
Up, plant, swing. Up, plant, swing.
That's right. And so the key is golfers get to hear and they start that forward swing with their club head, right? This way. And when you watch it, I'm going to just try to be super relaxed in my legs. And as I plant that heel, you know, it's circular. And so by getting that pressure down, I get into that front heel. I don't get stuck way behind. I love that drill. I mean, the amount of kids that we've had success doing that with, this is another kind of iteration of that. We'll even have them do this, Mandy. We'll even have them hit shots where they hit little shots like this. And when they swing, if they get up on their toes, then the wedge will fall.
Ah, I love that.
This is a great one.
Can everybody see that? Aaron's got a club under his left foot. That is super cool.
Yeah, so then you should be able to hit the shot and keep the wedge from falling over.
That's awesome. Hey, Aaron, quick question, and I totally am like diverting. Is there ever a time when you would let a jump go? Here's why I ask. We did a webinar with Alex Clapp, and he teaches Leon Fricker, who's a European tour player. Leon is huge, 6'5". And when Alex looked at his traces, he had two very different traces on his irons than his drivers, which is normal. However, on his driver, he's jumping. He's hitting the ball very, very, very far. Alex let that go, and he's okay with it. And I'm just curious because you're teaching your students out of it. Is there ever a time where jumping adds power and you would let that go?
That's a great question. So you never want to teach to style or aesthetic, right? You teach to ball flight.
Yep.
So if someone is living in their toes and they're finding the center of the club face and their ball is being propelled to the target, I don't care how they look. I don't care what their trace is when they do that. That's fine. The question you always have to ask yourself, right, is as an instructor is, are they repeating that? Are they doing that in the moments that it matters the most, like competition? And if the answer is yes, they're executing, who am I to say what their trace should look like or what their swing should look like?
Right.
And, you know, I'm very pleased with where golf instruction is going in that because of the technology, we're now moving away from my swing has to look a certain way to my ball has to fly a certain way, right? Tell Matthew Wolf that he has to swing it, you know, a certain way. I mean, it wouldn't work. So, or his swing wouldn't work if you tried to do that. So it's fine. I'll leave the swing alone. There's been many times that I've had someone come in and their swing is great. I say, look, don't let me coach you out of a good swing. Let me help you repeat that swing.
Right. That's so cool. And you in both cases, the kids jumping and Leon, you never know that till you're standing on a pressure mat. And it was cool to hear about that.
I'll tell you a quick thing about that is I was working with a high school girl who she must have been in ballet at some point because she could get up on those toes like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
And so we were working on it and she's getting better. And she came back and showed me a few weeks later a video of Lexi. And she said, look, Lexi's on her toes. And I said, hey, when you can hit it as consistently far and straight as Lexi, you can have your feet off the ground for all I care.
Yeah.
So, but that was pretty funny that I got a little pushback on that because look, there's always going to be someone who's doing it contrary to what talking heads like me are saying or what, the magazines are saying. And we have to allow for that individuality for sure.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I do this. This platform's so cool because half the people watching are coaches and they're asking questions. And I love the collaboration of, how we're using the technology and how we're teaching with it and different things we see. So that's just all very cool. And, certainly going to be the environment at the new Golfinity with the collaborative efforts that you guys are working with all the different golf technologies. We are at the end of our hour. So I will tell everyone once again, please read and check out Golfinity in Austin, Texas. Aaron is the CEO and co-founder. It's opening January 1. No? Yes?
Fingers crossed. You said it first. I'm holding. We gotta hold you to it.
I know that just the opening is not all that's coming from the Golfinity world. Keep an eye on them. They have lots of cool things up their sleeves. I'm very honored to be a part of it. And Aaron, thank you so much for joining me tonight. This will be recorded. We'll send it out. I really appreciate your time. It was awesome and fun.
Hey, Mandy, thank you so much for having me on. And thank you to all the people who tuned in. I'm excited to see what kind of feedback we get. And if there's any questions anybody has about how they can incorporate, some of these concepts and some of the drills, please feel free to reach out to me. I love learning and taking best practices from my colleagues. And I love to share any information that I get along the way with anyone who's an eager ear. So thanks again. And this has been a real treat for me.
Thank you, Aaron. Girls, Aaron's email is aaron@golfinity.com.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
everyone has it. There it is. And thanks so much. I'll see you next Tuesday when Terry Hash and I are going to discuss just the basics. Tuesday Traces next week is BodiTrak Basics, just the basics. Have a great week, everyone. See you next week.